And welcome to our Sunday. That always catches me off guard when people speak back, because every time I practice this, no one says anything. So, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to our Sunday service at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Laguna Beach. So, tomorrow is Martin Luther King Jr. Day observed here in the United States. But 94 years ago today was his actual birthday. So he was born on January 15th. And as we open up the service, because it is his birthday, I thought I'd read some words. So here are King's words. Justice for Black, Indigenous, and people of color will not flow into the society merely from court decisions, nor from fountains of political oratory. White America must recognize that justice for Black people cannot be achieved without radical changes in the structure of our society. King wrote this in an essay in 1969 titled A Testament and Hope. And in 1958, in a book that he wrote called Stride Toward Freedom, he wrote that true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. The theme of today's service is our first UU principle, which we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. King argued that if racism is ever to be eradicated, white people must begin to walk in the pathways of their Black brothers and feel some of the pain and hurt that throb without let up in their daily lives. So my name's Don West Jr., and I will be serving as your worship associate today. And we are going to be entertained by the vocals of our music director, the incomparable Carol Cole. Such a pleasure to have her with us, because music is a very, very important part of worship and why we gather together. So thank you for bringing us the sounds and stroking the keys, Carol. And then we have Pam, Flodman, and Dara Skareky working all of our technology, handling our sound and our Zoom to make sure that we're able to connect with everybody at home. We are the church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hand. In Unitarian Universalism, we accept you for who and what you are. At UUFLB, we are a welcoming congregation, committed to ending systemic racism with membership open to all. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever has brought you to join us in worship today, it is the right reason to be here. We unconditionally welcome all of you to our community of mutual caring and serious intent to grow as spiritual and moral beings. Unitarian Universalists subscribe to no single creed, but have gathered a set of 7 principles that guide us as we build religious community together. Today, I'm hoping to issue a challenge for us to live the principles, and in that challenge, we're going to explore living our first principle. And it's interesting because right before the service started, we were talking about football, and football is a really important thing. Me and Carol both have teams playing in the NFL playoffs today, but football is really about teamwork, right? And there's a lot of different jobs for the football team. And when I was driving across the desert, which I had a very easy drive, there was all of this worry about the weather, and there has been a lot of rain, which is a wonderful thing, but the rain also brings flooding. Anytime you have a lot of weather, there's always challenges, right? And so I'm driving across the desert, had a very easy drive, but I was thinking about our team, right? The team that makes this place go. And I was also thinking about what is it that makes it go, right? And so Candy comes and she sets our building up and she makes sure that our candles are lit and that we're ready to go. And Paul, he takes out the trash and he opens up the building every week and he comes and checks on the building. We have an issue with our window and Paul was able to identify the window. The point is we have a team and it all works together, and that's why we're still here. I came in those doors 5 years ago, which is crazy in my mind to think about that it's been 5 years. And I came in those doors 5 years ago and I tried to hide in the back and I tried to apply the rules of boot camp. When I went to boot camp, the rule was don't be seen, make sure they don't know who you are, be as anonymous as possible. And that's the rule I tried to apply when I came here. And I was thinking about a message that Reverend Tom said, that he said you can't come in and just sit there and passively be in the back. You have to be engaged and you actually have to grow in your engagement. And sitting here in front of you is as evidence of that growth. And I'm glad I'm not just hiding in the back, but also glad that I snuck in the back as well. Anywhere and everywhere on Sunday when a Unitarian service is held, a chalice is lit. And I'm also gonna ask Candy to come forward and light our chalice for us. And there's gonna be some chalice lighting words that are gonna come on the screen. I'm gonna read the first words that are gonna come up in regular print. And then the second screen, I invite all of you to join with me and read those together. And these chalice lighting words, I took them from a service that Dr. Ross put together. Dr. Ross Quinn put a service together and he pulled these words together. So at times our own light goes out and yet it is rekindled by the spark from another person. Each of us has cause to thank with deepest gratitude those who have ignited our light, the flame within us. And let's read all of this together. Let us hallow this time together, rekindling the chalice lamp of our heritage, rekindling the light of each other. And now we're going to have our centering thought. It's coming. Next one. Well, I'll read that since it's on the screen. King argued that if racism is ever to be eradicated, white people must be engaged, must begin to walk in the pathways of their Black brothers and feel some of the pain and hurt that throb without let up in their daily lives. And I did have another centering thought, if we can find that, Pam. Yes. There we go. So, bell hooks. I'm gonna invite you to read this with me if you feel comfortable. I am often struck by the dangerous narcissism fostered by spiritual rhetoric that pays so much attention to individual self-improvement and so little to the practice of love within the context of community. Now I invite you all to enjoy our opening hymn. It's going to be hymn number 1017, Building a New Way. I invite you to sing out and to do it enthusiastically, as Barbara used to say. You want to feel it, because that's part of why we're here, to be together and to feel the vibration. So number 1017, Carol, take it away.
Stretch your legs a bit and please join me. We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free.
Jean is here this week.
We can feed every need. We can feed our every need.
Carol, touch your worm out.
We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Thank you. And now we are going to take a moment to read a few words that remind us why we gather together. So if you're joining us by Zoom, I invite you to unmute yourselves. If you're here in the congregation and it feels comfortable for you, I invite you to join in, and let's make one voice as we read the unison affirmation that's going to be coming up on the screen.
Love
is the
spirit
spirit
of his
fellowship.
fellowship.
And service is its law.
This
This is our great covenant.
Well,
To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Next, we're going to do a responsive reading, and it's going to come from our gray hymnals. It's number 439. The words are also going to be on the screen. We gather in reverence. I'm going to read the regular text, and we're going to read the parts in italics together. We gather in reverence before the wonder of life.
The wonder of this moment.
The wonder of being
together.
So close, yet so apart.
Each hidden in our own secret chamber.
Each listening, each trying to speak.
Yet none fully understanding. None fully understood.
We gather in reverence before all intangible things that eyes see not, nor ears can detect. That
hands can never touch.
that space cannot hold
Hold.
and time cannot
Time
measure.
cannot measure. Ooh, pretty.
Now is a time in our service where we're going to pause our recording, and it's a time for, as a community, for us to share what's happened in the journey since we were last gathered, our joys and our sorrows. So and we're going to enter into the time of service where we bring forward the offering. And we're going to put up some information on the screen that shares a couple of different ways that you can give electronically or the old-fashioned way. And Candy is going to pass a basket around here in the building while we are pleasured with some tunes from our music director, Carol Cole. So again, there's two ways to give on the screen if you're watching at some point in the future or on Zoom. And this is the way that we sustain ourselves. This is the way that our community is able to continue to come together and do what we do. So take it away, Carol. And now let's give thanks for the bounty that we have collected and sing the song, "From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live," and we're gonna repeat that. And I invite you to stand if you're comfortable and sing out. Let's hear it. Wake up some people that are sleeping in this wonderful Sunday morning.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you
I receive,
to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
So now let's find a comfortable position and let's start to center ourselves and ground ourselves. Let's prepare a space and make a space intentionally for us to grow together, to be in community together. Let's just find that space and hold that space. And commune on that space for a few moments. Today, Martin Luther King III, that's the son of Martin Luther King Jr., a global human rights activist, he carries on his father's legacy, stating that it's only the beginning of the work that has been done. He begs us not to idolize his father, but to carry on his legacy, because he writes, the poor and disenfranchised, too often those in communities of color, still disproportionately bear society's harms through no fault of their own. That truth has compelled the fight for social justice across the spectrum. Labor rights, women's rights, and environmental rights. Because no matter who we are or where we come from, we are entitled to the basic human rights of clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, and healthy land to call home. Make no mistake, the injustice of climate change and the pollution that fuels it are among this century's most debilitating engines of equality. In our gathering video today, Imagine Dragons, which is a band from Las Vegas, so I kind of imported them here with me from Las Vegas, so I thought that was kind of cool. And I listened to the song like 15 times coming across the desert, but that has nothing to do with any diagnosis. It's in the DSM. It's just that the song is really cool. But in the song and in the video, it talks about pain, and pain is a constant in life. And one of the things that I really like about that video that we had in our gathering music was, one, I'm a real big kid of the 80s, so it has Drago from Rocky in it, right? And there's that part where there's the break and he says, I want to stop. And he says, we can't, right? We can't stop. There's these points. Can you guys still hear me? Because I'm not sure if my mic is on when I step away. Okay, so there's points in the journey where the pain makes you want to stop, where the pain forces you sometimes to stop. But we have to go on, and that's what's so well illustrated in the song from our gathering music, that we can go on. And so today I want to issue a challenge to us, and the challenge is to actually be the change, right? There's the famous quote that the Mahatma has, and they say that Ghandi said, be the change you want to see in the world. And we were putting together in our worship committee, what are we going to do for 2023? And I said, well, I like this quote, and so let's be the change. And then how are we going to be the change as Unitarian Universalists? And in this period of transition we're in, so I said, well, we have these 7 principles, and there's 12 months, and 7 doesn't divide very nicely into 12, but it fills up some of the blocks as you go through the 12 months. So I said, let's do a Be the Change challenge, and let's challenge ourselves to look at our principles, look at the things that we affirm and promote, and see how we can live those principles, and how living those principles perhaps can infuse some energy and some momentum in the things that are happening here at the UUFLB. So an interesting thing's happened since I decided to go to seminary. This has never happened in my 5 years as a UU, but ever since I decided to go to seminary, people keep asking me, what is Unitarian Universalism and what do Unitarians believe? Nobody ever asked me that question. They were just like, Don goes somewhere on Sunday and that's cool. But as soon as I decided to say that I was going to be a minister of the Unitarian Universalist faith, people keep asking that question. And so we have our 7 principles, and I was a little bit surprised. I didn't know this. I don't know if you guys know that the 7 principles, they haven't been around since the 1770s. I didn't know that. I thought, wow, these 7 principles, they're so awesome. They're so amazing. They must have been around forever. And now that I'm on this theological path of study, I go to the Google and I ask Google about the 7 principles, because I said, we're going to do this challenge. And when did these 7 principles come into being, right? And I learned a couple of things. I learned one, that in the 60s, when Unitarian Universalists came together, they created this platform, and it really didn't include the women. And there was a lot of tension because the language was very gender specific, and we've come to realize that language is very important. And all that to say, I think it was 1983, 1984, in the 1980s, when the principles that we now affirm and promote that were so awesome when I first walked in the back and sat down and read, they've only been around since the 1980s. And so I'm on the Google because that's a really, really trustworthy source, I want you to know. And Google pointed me to a UU World article that is now 10 years old. So it was 15 years after the passage and the adoption of the principles. And it was talking about the challenges the principles had endured over the 15 years, and that they had almost become ubiquitous with Unitarian Universalism. It pointed out in the article that the principles are printed in the hymnal, that they adorn many churches like they do here in our entrance, and we print them on the back of our order of service. So it's become something that we organize around. And also, there was an article that I found that said that there was a danger of the principles becoming a creed for Unitarian Universalists. And one of the things that it always says that there are no specific creed or any specific set of beliefs that Unitarian Universalists hold or promote. But let's come back to the first principle. The first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. So our country has a very unique history. We had a civil war that was fought in part around the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and the failure for there to be a consensus among all of our nation about what that meant. Back in May of 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, it was a traumatic event. I had just moved to Henderson, and there's a term that's come about called a snuff film, right? And I learned this because of the movies. And a snuff film is a film when a murder is captured on tape and people are able to watch it, and that's what a snuff film is. And so in May of 2020, I realized that I was watching a snuff film, and so many other people were watching it, and it impacted me in a way that I felt very alone. I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama, and I left Huntsville, Alabama in 1992 to go off into the United States Navy. And they sent me to boot camp in San Diego. And for the most part, I've been in and out of California ever since then, but far away from my family in Alabama. And if you know anything about the geography of where we live here in Orange County, I've lived in Newport Beach and Laguna Beach most of the time that I was here. My first job was at a firm up in Newport Beach. And so George Floyd impacted me. And I felt as though I was on an island. And the cool thing is, one of the things that helped me heal and helped me move through that was the community here at the UU of Laguna Beach. Reverend Lee Marie, I don't even know exactly how it came about, but she said, you know, why don't we do a film series? And in the summer of 2020, we did a social justice film series. And we invited other congregations from Orange County, and we watched those films together. And it was healing for me. And it became instructive because I became acutely aware of certain things that I had always been aware in society, but I started to ask some questions. And so the inherent dignity and worth of every person. And so I'm sharing with you how I was able to understand and to see how we might not be living up to that ideal through the illustration of George Floyd. And then I think about how I identify. I identify as a Black, heterosexual, cis, able-bodied male, right? And some of what I'm saying and some of the context of the Martin Luther King holiday and reflections show that in my Blackness, there are some challenges in the society and the construct that we're in. But what's also baked into this self-identification is the privilege of being male, right? And although I don't have all of the privileges of a cis white male in this society, in this construct, I've realized that I have a lot of privileges just by being male. And then through a lot of my development, I was an athlete. And I was a very good athlete, so that gave me another set of privileges on top of that. And Jason Garcia, who was one of my mentors in my mental health journey, he said, "You're also a man's man." And I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I think there might be some privileges in whatever that is as well. And so I share all that with you because then I started to realize that I have privileges. And that those privileges put me in a situation vis-a-vis some others that might give me a responsibility because the privileges are just baked into the cake in a way that we might not really be able to recognize. And so I'm gonna share this as an example, and this is me being really vulnerable and telling you guys some secrets. So in the mid-1990s, I was at Florida State University, and I took this class called the Philosophy of Feminism. And I'm gonna say that was about 1995. So if we do the math, that was 28 years ago, I took this Philosophy of Feminism class. And now this is a really interesting psychological phenomenon that happened within my mind. I took that class and I checked this huge box, boom, of being an ally to feminism and knowing things about feminism. And I was all in because I took this class. And then something really cool happened in that class. For whatever reason, what was going on, there was a candlelight vigil at midnight. And I had a candle and I marched. And for about 25 or 26 years, I held on to the fact that I had that candle and I marched. And I thought I had done all the work that I needed to do to be a great ally to all of my sisters out there, including my biological sisters, because I had taken that one class. And so what I'm going to challenge you to do is to think about how that might apply to something in your journey. Because I've had people tell me, oh, that's sexist, or that's that, or that's that. And every time, at least in the back of my mind, I said, I took this class, so they're wrong. Because I'm exempt because I took the class. And what I realize is that was 28 years ago. And there's a time where you have to reflect and do a serious assessment of self and say, where do I stand on this? And what have I done with this? And so my own self-report, and this is where, don't tell anybody, and if you're watching this on YouTube, don't share it. I hadn't done any work for 28 years, really, to improve myself and to see until the Me Too movement started making me look. And with the empathy that had been forced out of me to the George Floyd experience, I had to look and say, where do I have privilege and where can I be a better ally? So I challenge you, and whatever has been your journey, is there something that you did 28 years ago that you might be holding on to? That you might say, I checked that box, I got that one all cleaned up, it's all done. Because it's about the habits that we develop. And Unitarian Universalism is a non-creedal religion, which means you don't have to hold a specific set of beliefs to be welcomed into our community. We embrace theological diversity. We have people who profess strong Christian backgrounds, Jewish backgrounds, atheist backgrounds, mystical backgrounds, so many backgrounds, but a common thread, a commonality is that we understand that our job description is to be responsible and caring stewards of the earth during our lifetime. On our Zoom at Noon group that meets on Mondays, we started having a conversation because Paul shared about Dr. Wayne Dyer. And Dr. Wayne Dyer is one of my favorite teachers. And one of the things that Wayne Dyer often says is that he's a spirit having a human experience. And in having that human experience, we have to determine what and how we're going to contribute to this walk. We have the privilege of being a block off of the ocean. And I went out and I looked at the ocean, and there's this huge ocean, and it's a little bit aggravated because there's weather. So there's big waves, and all we can be is 1 ounce of love in that great big ocean. And each action that we create becomes a contribution to that ocean. And so when I think about where I have deficiencies in being an ally as a feminist thinker, a feminist activist, I see opportunities for myself. And we must choose to enter into wander and grieving and labor for others, for our opponents, and for ourselves. In order to transform the world around us, we need to see more and more kinds of people as part of us. And if we don't see them as part of us, we need to see them as part of us that we don't know yet. We need to see them as our siblings. And so the challenge in the inherent worth and dignity every day and living that is how do we engage our community, and how do we engage our neighbors? How do we engage one another in a way that creates something different than what exists today? When I started out, I started talking about how we come together as a team and everybody plays their role. And we have to envision a future for this place. We have to have an idea about where we're gonna go with this place. So in our Be the Change challenge, as we go through the next 6 principles and go into examining the 7th principle, I leave it as a challenge to do a serious self-assessment of how did we get here in the spirit of Martin Luther King. It's 1861 is the beginnings of the Civil War. It's now 2023. The 1960s were the civil rights movement, and John Lewis left us with the challenge to be getting in good trouble, which he was able to do up until the week before his passing in his 80s. So next week, I didn't get to the announcement slides earlier, I just realized, but next week we have Jackie Nunez is going to be joining us here. And one of the things that she's able to bring to us is a connection to the land and the fact that we're stewards. It was Reverend Tom Owen Toll who gave the job description that I referenced earlier. It's kind of cool that he's been with us, I think 3 or 4 times since I've been a member. And each time he leaves a special piece of energy and a special thought, as well as he sets up with his books, so he always leaves a tome or 2. But he said our job description is to be responsible and caring stewards of the earth during our lifetime. And in the next few weeks, as we go this afternoon, as we do whatever it is that we're going to do this year in 2023 to honor and participate in Martin Luther King Jr. Day and the holiday that will be celebrated and observed tomorrow, I want you to think about and do an assessment of what is it in your journey that, like me, is that class from 1995 that you've been holding on to? What is it that you can do differently? And how can we make the inherent worth and dignity something that people are able to say, that's what they do there? That's the challenge I leave for us today. Namaste. And now we are going to have our closing song. And it is number 308, The Blessings of the Earth and Sky. Hymn number 308 in the gray hymnal, The Blessings of the Earth and Sky.
Would y'all like to stand? The blessings of the earth and sky upon our friendly house do lie. The brightness of our Master's heart has blessed with grace its every part. The warmth of many hands is strewn in human blessings on this stone. The wind upon the lakes and hills performs its native rituals. The worship of our human toil brings sacrament from sun and soil. With words and music we the earth in nature's wonder seek our words. Here we restore our ancestral dreams, enshrined in floor and wall and beams. A monument wherein we build that their high purpose be fulfilled. A tool to help our children prove and earth a promise and of love.
As we extinguish this chalice, let the light stay with us and carry us until we come together again. Join me for just a brief moment of prayer and a benediction. Dear universe, thank you for the gathering, and thank you for allowing us to come together in community. We appreciate the space that we were able to hold, the thoughts that we were able to share. Look after us and comfort us. Encourage us until we gather again. Namaste, amen, and blessed be. And now, I invite you to rise if you are able and join in our closing song, Let There Be Peace on Earth. Carol, let there be peace on earth.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With earth as our mother, we are family.